the amount of change happening is in a shorter period of time. So we're having more change in a shorter period of time. In my lifetime, I had a pager and a cell phone and the internet and AI, and like my grandparents had, like they dealt with having a cell phone. That was their big change. That is impacting the people that you're selling to every single day. And you have to understand that and be the easy person to work with, to be the clear salesperson, to deliver them messages that are easy to understand so that they can make the sale, because they are being inundated with all of this. This is impacting every part of our lives, on top of all the social media and all the other stuff that we talked about. So how do we deal with that? We have to increase the buyer's confidence in their decision. And I don't mean their decision to buy your product. I mean, we need to help them be more confident to make a decision. That's really key. Whoever they're going to pick, are they going to be confident? Do they understand what they're buying? Do they understand the complexities of all of that? Number two, are we helping them with their buying groups? So are we helping them understand and navigate sometimes that they're going to be taking this to a committee? I've literally had people tell me, I need you to send me this big old proposal, 10 pages, all this stuff. And I will say, great, so help me understand what happens after that. Well, then I'm going to give it to my boss. Okay, so how does your boss consume stuff? Oh, my boss really likes watching videos. So why am I sending you a 10-page written proposal that your boss is never going to read? Like, I don't say that. But that's for them. So then I have to create separate content for their boss, a bucket of videos that they can watch, because they're not going to read, they're only going to watch. But if I didn't ask that question to understand who the other people are in that decision-making process and deliver that content to them so they can get comfortable, I'm going to lose. So we have to make sure we're helping them, because they're not thinking, they're distracted, they have all this other stuff going on, they're not thinking about it. They're like, my job is to get the information and I pass it on. Well, that's not going to help us be more successful. And then we have to make sure that we are employing strategies to reduce uncertainty during that sales journey. That's tough to do, because ultimately, so many times, it's not that we lose, it's that they didn't make a decision, period. They didn't have enough confidence to make a decision to even buy anyone's product or service. I can't tell you how many times we lost and they just kept the incumbent. And that was because they weren't confident in the solution, the new solution that they were looking at. They were like, we'll just leave it as is. I mean, no one's upset right now. We could be better. But if I bring in this new thing and it's not right, I'm going to get in trouble, or I'm going to get fired. So we have to help them have that confidence. That's what being a sense-making seller means. It shouldn't be this way. Like, I think I understand some of you have a tension about this of like, well, they should know, they should be able to do this on their own. They're not. We have to help them do that over and over and over again. All right, the next strategy is dealing with pricing and closing confidence. So this was a clear thing that we brought up and we heard lots of times as a whole. And I wanted to make sure we spent a little bit of time on how can we be better at this year. Preparation is everything when it comes to pricing and closing. If you're not doing enough to prepare, you're going to have a hard time being successful at this. Now, at the end, when I give you the little QR code if you want a copy of the deck, you're also going to get a copy of this worksheet here. Immediately, it'll give you a thing to download if you want a copy, and I'm going to walk you through it. I use this on every call that I'm on all the time. And it goes like this. So if I'm going to have a call, let's say Jason and I had several calls. I have a call with Jason, and I'm going to show up, and my first thing I'm going to write down before him and I get on the call is, what is the mission and purpose? Not my mission and purpose. What was Jason's? Jason wants to find a good speaker for his SKO. So that's what he cares about. It's not what I want Jason to pick me, but what Jason wants was the right speaker for his event. That was his mission and purpose. So I had to write that out. That was the most important thing. Okay? What does the client want in this interaction, in this moment for this call? What are the problems that we want to deal with? Whatever those things, whatever those issues are. Maybe they don't understand your solution yet. Maybe we don't know what the budget is. Maybe we don't know the decision making. Whatever the problems are that you feel like you want to talk about, or you might want to address, or they might want to address, write those out. What is our baggage? This is often the one that I find that people avoid. Our baggage could be, well, we tend to be the most expensive. Or maybe like we're a brand new company and we don't have a lot of credibility yet. Like whatever that thing is, you're like, I'm trying to avoid that. I don't want to talk about that. You need to write it out. Maybe I don't think this person really likes me. And I'm dealing with this contact and I feel like the relationship's just not there yet. Like that could be your baggage. Write it out. What's their baggage? Right? You're dealing with this person on the phone and maybe the baggage is they're not really the decision maker and they're acting like they are, but we know they're going to go a step up and that's really who's going to make the decision. That could be their baggage. Writing this stuff out somehow releases us to sort of start to deal with it and to talk about it and to make sure that we're addressing it and that we're actually correct about it. I negotiated with Walmart one time for 18 months straight. And in every call, I would say to them, you're never going to pick me. We're not big enough for you. You only work with the biggest gorillas in the industry. You're never going to pick us. Why are we on this call? They would say, no. We're really interested in diversifying. We want different vendors. We're willing to give a piece of the business. But I kept saying, this is my baggage. You're never going to pick us. I think we're too small. I don't think you're ever going to take the risk on a company that's not a billion-dollar provider. I mean, we talked about Kroll and Choice. I kept telling them, you're never going to pick us. That was my baggage. And their baggage was to try to convince me that they would. Unfortunately, in the end, I was right. They ended up picking like a big, giant gorilla. But every single time I kept talking about it and trying to poke, because I wanted them to tell me, you're right, we're never going to pick you, so I could stop spending all this time with them. Because it was a waste of effort. But it's important that we address it. What do we actually want out of the call? It's important that you have some idea of what you actually want in that moment, in that call. Is it to understand what the next step is? Is it to get their budget? Is it to understand who the other decision makers are? What do you want? We show up so many times at these calls and we kind of leave it to chance. And we let them dictate what's going to happen in that call. And we want them to have that somewhat control, but we can guide them and make sure that we are getting and understanding what we need in order to move that forward in the right way. I sometimes write this one down and sometimes I leave it blank, but what happens next? If I don't know, then I'll leave it blank and I'll make sure I ask them what happens next and then I can write it in as my notes. What's going to happen next? We have another call. Is it goes off to someone else? Does it go to RFP? Like whatever the thing is. What happens next? And then I leave an area for a script. All right, some ideas about the questions I might want to ask. What are some things I might want to address? Okay? Every single phone call, I do this. And it takes me 2 or 3 minutes right before the call. So if you are scheduling calls back to back to back to back and you don't have any time to even think about who that next caller is, you're doing it wrong. Change that right now. Change your calls, change the timing on them, and be really, really diligent to leave yourself a couple minutes to prepare and be ready for that next call so you are super intentional and that the call goes the way you want it to. Again, you're building credibility and you're building fluency with that contact because you are showing up with great questions. You know where you want it to go. You're asking the right things. You're helping them understand where they need to go. Some of you do this naturally, and you've been doing this long enough that you probably, when I do this sheet, it's really quick. It's like shorthand, right? When I first started, I was writing paragraphs. But now I kind of know where I'm going to go, but it's still that practice is really important. Again, I'm going to give you that sheet you all can have. So when we come in and we deal with price, ultimately we have to make sure that we are dealing with value. If you're selling on value first, the price will be less of an issue. I talked about the guy I worked with at SKO. He built value, that their microscopes were the best, and people would pay an extra $1 million for the microscope because they built the value. When we buy something at the store that has great value, we don't worry whether or not it's a few bucks more. right? We pick up that jacket and we think, well, this jacket's going to last 5 years, and this jacket's going to fall apart in one season. There's value in us paying more. We have to counter that against people's expectations and their budgets and everything else going on. It's not always their decision. But if we have done enough to provide good value, it's easier for us to deal with those pricing objections. Have we done a great job of listening to them? Right? So we provided value. Did we really listen to what they wanted?